I'm the legendary overall father, Derrick Chanel, from the Green Era, reside in the Midwest.
I'm the legendary Rico West, started in the Blue Era, been walking and winning in the Green Era. I'm from North Carolina, but I live in New York now.
All right, and I'm the legendary Eric. I used to be a part of the House of Milan, from the Blue Era, brand in the Green Era. So for me, some of the game changes, some of my favorites would be Melson Milan, Roy Ebony, Dray Ebony, James Icon, Man Prodigy, just to name a few. Been inspired by them different reasons.
Some of my few, and I think I feel with game changers, definitely Dray Ebony. I feel like he brought a sense of style to realness for his era. Jahar Ebony, I feel like he brought a sense of grace and swag to realness that I feel wasn't there with realness walkers before them, just me personally. And then Roy Ebony, he's my inspiration for walking realness and my personal favorite.
Okay. Some game changes for me is it's a little bit different from some of my counterparts up here because I'm actually legendary for executive realness. So game changes for me, I'll give you a blended, will be some thugs and some execs. So for me, like Wrecker Revlon, Clinton Levin, the late Papa Balenciaga, Dray Ebony from a thug perspective, Roy Ebony from a thug perspective, Terry Chanel, and got Pop's fair share.
Why is the interpretation of a man's realness in ballroom almost a 360 opposite from male realness outside of ballroom?
That's a deep one. I think it's mainly because outside of
Eric, start with like realness interpretation. Yeah.
So I think that the realness interpretation differs from ballroom to everyday perspective, mainly because every day you're subjected to whatever that environment would have been. So there's certain places that I'm from Brooklyn, so if I go to certain places in Brooklyn, I know I'm going to see a certain type of image, and that's how I resonate with what realness is supposed to be. So if I'm judging it from those parameters, what I know it to be. Ballroom kind of centers your perspective around some guidelines that's historical in nature, previous competition that used to do things. So it's a bit more focused on ballroom aesthetics and ballroom factors as opposed to outside everyday realness. So I find like people who are more from the outside, our standards of judge of realness is a bit more higher than those who are just solely ballroom. I know that's how it is for me. When I judge, I look for different things in regard to, is that person real? It's more than just when you wear, it's really about your cadence. It's really about you owning your confidence. So I kind of look at it from a different perspective, but I think that that's what creates the difference between ballroom and everyday life.
When it comes to how realness is judged ballroom wise, I feel that ballroom is antiquated when it comes to judging realness, and I feel that ballroom is still stuck in a lot of past eras. When it comes to society and judging realness, that's why you see now a lot of rappers and a lot of guys, they dress way different than sometimes what ballroom may require. I feel that ballroom is still stuck in the eras of the Dre's, the Roys, and the people that they're used to, because ballroom has this thing with gatekeeping and things like that. So ballroom is still stuck with the eras that they're used to, and society has moved past that, but ballroom still has this strict standard of where they see certain things. So they're still judging off of that and that look and certain standards there, to where in the outside world, that is still realness in some circles, some lists and some standards, but realness is also evolved in so many other ways in the outside world. But ballroom is still stuck in a certain phase when it comes to realness categories and how they judge and see them.
For me, the reason why I feel like it's a 360 difference is because it honestly shouldn't be. I'm gonna kind of switch the question around a little bit, because in my interpretation of how you live your everyday life, it should be how you are on the ballroom floor. So for me, what you see is what you get. What you see right now is the same way you're gonna see me at work, in my 9 to 5. So it should be the same. Shouldn't be a difference.
That question is transitional for me. I think as a person that walked the category heavily years back, and kind of realizing that the category had stigmas that just wasn't aligning with where I was going in my life. My desire to walk it was a bit different. So I think that I don't know. I would like to see that the key elements of realness is not lost, and popularity, and some ways that I see some of the votes where I'm like, okay, I guess that's how they felt that night. But what I would like to say for people who are actually working the category now, I would say don't lose you and trying to maintain the image. So I would say that much. I come across so many people who pretend to be, and to Rico's point, I deliberately, when I used to walk rivers, would do things. I would walk streetwear as well. So I would deliberately come to the ball a certain way that was anti what the category was, just to spark controversy around people that walk the category that y'all not being yourself. So I could wear a skirt and be more masculine than the person that's concealed in camouflage gear. And I think that that's really my message for the ballroom for the future, is to not lose you. Find you, look at those who've done it before you. They've all, if you watch their career, have worked their way towards a mastery in their cadence and how they present themselves and became a crowd favorite. But those who I look up to, some of the individuals that I referenced earlier, I watch them change their way of life. And so I remained inspired. Even if they're not walking balls, I still speak with these individuals. We connect on social media and we talk about what's going on in our real life. So I think that realness connection is still there. We were always genuine in our relationship from the start all the way to where we are in 2023.
When it comes to how realness has changed, or such how the category has moved now, it's definitely different from years prior. I'm not sure if that's for the good or the bad right now. I do like it. I mean, it's a lot more, well, personally, the creativity with the category is definitely moved up. I do like that when I do see the guys walk the ball. It's to the point that Eric was just speaking about, as far as like the bonds that we were able to make in the years that we were walking. Like, I'm from North Carolina. I started walking as a teenager, making my little small trips, catching Greyhound buses and stuff up here. It took years of me walking, being the little quiet boy in the corner, to be able to speak to Rory, to know people like Rory and Dre, and to have the relationship I have with Eric, like, for years now. Like, it took years, and I'm not a boisterous, outgoing person, but I've always remained true to the person that I was along the years of walking this category, and that's what I try to push off now to anybody who knows me. I don't like the popularity-based culture, but I think that's across the whole spectrum of ballroom now, not just realness. But I do see that it's seeped its way into our category as well, and I hope that a lot of the guys who are making their way through it just know to remain true to themselves, that there's a lot of good brotherhood in our category. There are a lot of good elders in our category, the icons, the legends. Like, there's a lot of love in the realness community, and I need that, like, the conversations of toxicity, and so, like, I need people to be able to push past that and really see what's underneath the surface when it comes to realness and when it comes to ballroom. And there's actual community in this category. Like, when I became legendary, I'm a poet, an author, and an activist. I wrote a book, and I did that just to do something past my ballroom category and just show people, like, hey, after ballroom and outside of realness, like, I'm a poet, and that, like, this is me at heart, and I came back and presented it to the community because I wanted it to be shown that forget all that machismo and everything else that you put on the floor. Like, it has to be more than that. And I hope that in the progression of the scene and the progression of realness, and as these guys get pushed to higher heights than any of us could have ever dreamed of, that people remember to stay grounded.
I think for me, what ballroom is now, where I kind of see it going from the realness perspective. I mean, I started in 2006, and realness is completely different than what it was then. I think for the better. One thing that we need to get people to see is that we as a people are some of the most creative people that's out there. And you see it within our categories, right? So, like I said, realness today is definitely different from realness yesterday. So the creativity levels, man, with some of the people that's walking today, I would have never thought to do some of the stuff that they're doing. Like, I would have never thought to get as creative as they are, And so where you see it going, that's only gonna evolve even more, right? Because we as people, like I said, we're some of the most creative people. So I can only imagine what this realness will look like 10 years from now.
Do I have a rival? Believe anybody is my rival. I never looked at it from that particular perspective. I think that to some of the points that the gentleman just made that I totally agree with, ballroom at the time that we were walking in and allowed creativity. You were kind of boxed in to be a certain type of image. And I think for those who are actually like genetically, you were just a man, right? I think a lot of times people don't realize that even in your everyday life, you have females that would see you as attractive and won't understand why you're gay, right? So that could be a talk of a town. Then you have ballroom where there's different extremes of masculinity and femininity. And when you look to be aggressive or look to be masculine, then that also creates a stigma. So for me, I was just more so trying to find me, to not be looking at who I want to rival, who I want to battle. So I can't really speak to how people looked at me. I was just trying to find my confidence, find my cadence, find my own voice in that moment. So I never looked at it from that aspect. So yeah, I think for me, it was never about like finding rivalries or anything like that. I would love to come out and work against certain type of people because I respected what they've done as well. And I feel like when I look at ballroom, I think that as long as you continue to represent what people love from you when you come out, there's going to always be somebody debating that you won, even when you don't, right? So I never come out thinking I don't want to be the victor. I know I'm about to be judged by individuals, and it's whatever their perception might be for that night. So if you go there expecting to kind of have win-loss, in your control and so on and so forth, and looking to, be competitive to advance your name, I think that you kind of get lost in everything that really makes the category, give you like, allow you to stand the test of time. Like you're going to have wins, losses, et cetera, but the, back and forth controversy from my perspective takes away from men don't do that. The men that I'm from don't do that. So when I see a lot of the back and forth, the touching, all of that's the response to a touch for me has always been, hey, what's going on? Like that's something a bit much, right? So I think that I've always looked for ways to kind of like, how do I just get past this category, do my thing for the night, represent my house. But I went through my struggles just walking through that category, feeling a little goofy about some of the things that I would have to do in regard to competition, because now it's surveillance, now it's video, now that is somebody's perception of me in a snapshot. So I've been a little bit more conscious as I got further in my career in regard to realness. So I think I might alter aspects of how I looked at the category, but I never saw it from that perspective. I'm not sure about the other two, but.
Well, no, when it comes to like rivalries and realness, I definitely feel the same way as Eric. I never really went with that mindset. I mean, there's definitely guys like, I lived in Atlanta for a lot of years. Me and Magnum both coming up, so we definitely had our roundabout time at the time. I think, beating them at the Discovery was definitely one of those times that kind of started to really elevate me as far as the category. But, I never really was one to like just really be focused in like the rivalry or just set out in anybody, and I don't think people ever been set out for me like that. But it's ballroom, it happens. I mean, there have been those moments where it was a win or loss, especially nowadays with everything, like Eric said, everything's snapshot and videos, people will send you something at the comment, you shouldn't have won that, so I mean, it's like that now because of the state of the community where we are. But me personally, it's not a thing that I go out for, and historically it's never been my focus. I just come to do what I do, and win, lose, or draw, I'll be at the next one.
Do I have any rivals? I won't necessarily say I have rivals, but I'm gonna talk a little stuff because my bro's being modest right now, and it's been it's still ballroom at the end of the day, right? So like from an executive perspective, I beat them all. The only one I haven't really beat from an executive perspective is Rico. From a legendary realness perspective, me and Say Cool kind of go back and forth. We won one right now. I beat him last. Dray Ebony, new Dray Ebony. We go back and forth. I think he actually beat me last. Who else? Magnum can't get me. He got me one time. I probably got him like 3 or 4 times. But other than that, yeah, that's about it.
And our resumes are long. But I appreciate that aspect. Like I think it's competitive.
Right.
Definitely is competitive. But I feel like to what you said earlier, like that relationship that we do build, like myself, yes, there's so many other guys that work the category that have an the stereotype. And behind the scenes, we have our own little kind of coven, if you will, of fellowship.
Right.
So I think it's really cool. I think it's cool.